Hello, everyone. I am Andy Anderson. My partner, Ike Allen, and I are the co-owners of AVAIYA University. Welcome. Thanks so much for joining us. And in this event, as you've been discovering, we are talking with some really incredible experts. We're talking with thought leaders, visionaries, authors, and more, who are ultimately here to help inspire and motivate you to pursue the next level of your dreams. And today, our guest is going to be talking about authentic awareness. So please welcome the fabulous Lisa Garr. Hi, Lisa.
Hello, how are you? Thank you so much for having me on.
I am doing fabulous, and it's my pleasure, and thank you so much for saying yes and being here today. I want to share a little bit about you and your work before we get started. So for those of you who don't know Lisa, she is the host and creator of The Aware Show, a transformational radio show about natural health, about cutting-edge science, personal growth, and spirituality since 1999. And she's on a mission to bring practical awareness to everyday life. She also hosts a Hay House radio show called Being Aware, and she is a regular weekend host on Coast to Coast AM, syndicated on over 600 stations around the world, and her current series on Gaia TV is called Inspirations on Gaia. So let's talk about awareness. How did, so much of your work centers around this topic of awareness. So I'm glad that we're going to dive into that today. How did you get started on your path to greater awareness in life?
Well, which is so interesting because you teach what you need to learn the most. And in several years ago, I think it was about 20 years ago now, I wasn't aware. I was in a place where I was rushing, which is easy to do, but I was doing it without purpose. I was in a place where I was working day and night, burning the candle at both ends. And it's okay to do that, but I was doing it because way, way off purpose. I was working in television production, which is great and interesting, but it was in daytime talk shows. And back then the segments weren't as meaningful as you see today in some of the shows now. It was more about, washing machines and cooking segments, and all that's great, but I was clearly here for another reason. And as you do, and what happens is life pushes you or shoves you into that different calling if you get off path. Because there's this, if you just get 1% off of your trajectory, in several years, it starts to be like 20, 30, 40%, right? Yeah. So I think God and the universe just said, nope, we're not going to do that. Her work in the world is too important. Let's knock her off a bike and destroy her brain.
Oh man, yeah, you have quite the story. Could you share a little bit about that challenge that you faced?
Yeah, I did. I had a bike accident during a mountain bike race, which I love mountain biking, and I love the people I would ride with. They were from work buddies, and we would go out on the weekends. It was great connection. But in this particular race, it was just extreme heat, and it was 5,000 feet of climbing, and it was a long race. I was 20 something miles, but I think the dehydration, despite me drinking, it just took me out, and I passed out at the top of the mountain and must have fallen down, must have hit a rock because my helmet was shattered. And what I experienced in that moment, I didn't know the brain damage that had caused, but what I did experience was a state of incredible bliss. I mean, it was boundaryless. And there's not even words to explain what it means to have zero separation between anything. Literally everything in our world, in our universe, is completely 1,000% connected, seamless. And when you really experience that level of oneness, nothing compares. You can't unsee it. You can't unexperience it. It is always in your awareness. And when I really saw that, and strange things were happening, I started to feel the medics around me, not even knowing what was going on. I just started to have this sense of awareness of being an artist and being a medic and liking other medics and other cohort. And I had these strange, very, like they were my feelings, but they were the feelings of the people around me. And I could hear in a different way. I could experience those that were helping my body. I was clearly not in it. I was watching this whole thing, must have been from a different perspective. As my body's going through its, throwing up, and then they put it on a stretcher and they put the body in a helicopter and airlifted it to the hospital because I was dying. And I was in just a complete state of bliss. It was incredible. And I think having that experience, it has helped me measure everything against that, Andy, everything. That level of interconnectedness is really, truly the world we live in. It is really, truly here and accessible. I don't suggest anyone go knock themselves in the head. I just, it is easy to tap into this level of awareness, and because it is available to all of us all the time, everywhere. And you and I connected now, we're across the country from each other, and we feel like we're in the same room. We shared heart space stories beforehand of being busy working moms, and we have a level of sisterhood that can't even be explained. We've met once and talked to several times, but it's a beautiful mutual camaraderie, friendship. And so that's an example of how everyone can experience this at any time, and it's just true love. Nature does it, and it has the upheaval as well. It has chaos, and it has order, and then it has symmetry and frequency. It's just, so I've spent the rest of my life after that accident recreating that experience. Every interview I do, every message that comes through one of my shows, it comes through with that frequency of that oneness, that connectedness. And I'm definitely not airy-fairy sitting on a mountain meditating my life away. I am insanely busy. That's a part of it. That's a part of it. I am active in the world, doing 6 or 7 shows a week, but I love what I get to do. I love what I get to do. So you can live a full octane life. You can be a mom, a partner, healthy, and also do it with purpose and passion. And if you don't find that purpose and passion, it finds you.
Right.
Everyone knows that. I have friends who are, that tried to do something in the business and insurance world, and they were natural teachers, and the universe course corrected them. Now being preschool teachers, because that was really truly their calling. Yeah.
God, it's so beautiful. Thank you. That I feel like that was it. There was the whole class today, because that's
done. See you later.
Right. That's the essence. That's it. Right. It's that connection. And I totally feel it between you, and hoping that everyone watching right now can also feel that lack of separation, connectedness, just freaking bliss. It is amazing.
And it does happen. I mean, separation happens quickly, especially in our world today, of what we're going through with the news, and I think it's just going to intensify in the next year. It absolutely is. And I also think that is inclusive. More and more people are interested now in politics and in our world and in our country, and more than ever before, people are waking up. And this is what I call authentic awareness. It is truly waking up to something that you can no longer ignore. You can no longer deny. You can no longer think they're going to fix it or they're doing it to me. It is a matter of, I am responsible for my own home. And if I need to fix this first, and then I can go out there and fix that. And it's a being shift. It's a state of being shift.
So speaking of that, I know you talk about in your work, and it's a great segue from what you just said. And given like the state of our society today, obviously we're referencing the United States, but wherever you are, whatever's going on in your society, like, why do you think it's important for people to have tools in a daily practice in this day and age?
Oh, it is like taking your daily vitamins. Vitamins are great because we really don't have them a lot in our food supply now, right? Eating healthy is essential because of that same source of contamination. Well, look, thoughts and other frequencies and events that are occurring around the world are the same thing. You need to boost up, just like you would your immune system, with a really healthy organic diet and with a source of good minerals and vitamins. You need to do the same exact thing with your thoughts, the same exact thing. And once we realize, and this is just a little bit of science, because I just interviewed someone that really reminded me of this, that, in the atoms of our body, we have trillions of them, and in each one of those little atoms, we are 99.9999% space, right? So really if you really think into that, if you really be into that and go into that, and you think about that most of us is created from this incredible infinite space, how can we recreate that? How can we impact that space? How can we form it into things that matter become matter, right? So if we have this intentionality with our thought diet every single day, then we start to form the things that matter in our lives and really make a full difference. And this is our responsibility. This is no longer a luxury. And this is really where my shows have gone now, is to that level of, you know, I've interviewed people for 20 years in the New Thought industry, and we've been talking about the same thing for 20 years, and things are starting to change. Really, things are starting to change, because now we're preaching to the choir. The choir's got it. The choir started to become teachers, and there's teaching the other people that are now becoming awake. This is what we need. We need a tribe of heart-centered, activated human beings to recreate our thoughts every single day, impact the space in our life every single day, and make a difference. Mm-hmm. I'm on fire about this a little. I mean, I had technical difficulties getting in here today. I'm like, I'm doing this today. We're doing this. Because I'm so passionate about this topic.
So yes. And that's a great example of just in general, life is going to throw obstacles. It's just part of, like, it's inherently part of this game we call life. And right, what are we going to do with those obstacles? How are we going to overcome them, push through, let go, know that it's time to do the interview, or no, it's time to reschedule, right? It's just
right. But also, look, this is, as things become chaotic in our world and life, we are beings of light. I mean, we just have this brightness that shines through us, and to remember that is really important. Mm-hmm. When you get knocked off your path or off that trajectory, like I was talking about earlier, it's just as simple as remembering the light being that you are. Mm-hmm. Maybe take a look at yourself as a little kid and see that beaming soul that was there. Or if there's a point in your life where you felt a lot of joy, remember that. And just imagine that light just beaming out of your heart. And it really helps dissolve obstacles. It can melt away challenging people even. It can really melt hearts. The stronger you beam that source of light within you. Mm-hmm. And it changes your frequency, which then starts to change the frequency of things around you. It mm-hmm. completely impacts your field and the field around you. Mm-hmm. And so you've done it where you get into the negative thinking and you get stuck and you get into a tizzy, which I could have easily done prior to the show. But I'm like, this isn't going to serve me. It's not going to serve me to be frustrated with technology right now. It is simply going to be, let's work around it and talk about something you don't think you can impact. We did it.
Yeah.
We figured it out. We impacted the field, and here we are. And it's right. 3 devices later, but it's okay.
It's all good. Whatever it takes.
Right.
So yeah. Like, what other kinds of techniques, you've kind of shared a little bit around this, but what kinds of exercises or techniques or tools can people start to implement in their life to have this authentic awareness, to really be working through their thoughts, that kind of stuff?
Yes. Okay. So there's 2 tools that I use, and it's all about the tools. I mean, your life is busy and full, and the more you can incorporate these to change your state, the easier life is going to start to flow for you. One is a really simple one, and I know we both have teenagers, and this is a very simple one that I taught her. And my daughter's a very empathetic human being, very compassionate, and she takes on everybody's pain. Mm. And so what I do and did with her last night, because she had a little bit of a fever today, and so what we did is I looked, just kind of scanned her body, and I saw all these different colors in her body. And I said, if you were to pick a color you resonate with the most, what would that be? And she didn't know. And then finally, and I said, imagine if you could pick a color of what that would be, what would it be? Just to go right into your imagination and play with it. She chose this aqua green. And so we created an image of a waterfall, and the waterfall is just showering her body with this aqua green color, and showering and cleansing and flowing. And it started to get her energy moving. And these other energies that really weren't in affinity with her, that were messing up her field, started to wash away and go back to where they came from, and drop down through her body and through her legs and all the way down through the earth. And she started to clear out her body from all these beautiful, empathetic, compassionate energies that she's taken on, as we do sometimes as healers, and we feel the room. Start to wash through your body with that beautiful color that's in affinity with you. And that's basically resetting your field, resetting your energy with your own frequency, and you pick a color just to come up with a frequency, just gives you something that gives you back yourself. Then you start to shift and change your state, because you have your own energy to deal with now, to work with now. Mm-hmm. I'm a big fan of Tony Robbins, and I've gone to a lot of his events, and he's all about state change. Mm-hmm. And really, truly, I mean, even if you go away, say you go on a trip for a couple of days and you come back and everything looks so different because you went somewhere and you changed your state. You went to another state maybe, but it's all, life is state dependent. It truly is state dependent. So the more ability you have, and this is a finely tuned technique and a tool that you can use anytime, anywhere, is you have the ability to change your state. Mm-hmm. And it is absolutely essential for anything that's happening in your life. You can shift and change your state. So clear the energy, look at the situation from an objective, that puts you into the objective perspective. And then you look at things differently. That great quote from Wayne Dyer, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's exactly that's what happens. So you clear your space, choose a color you're in affinity with, reset your frequency, become the observer, and then look at the situation from a totally different state. Mm. And that combines in a lot of different philosophies and teachings and so forth that we've heard before, but it's a very simple technique.
I love it. Thank you. That's awesome. So everyone watching, please, if that resonates with you, please take that on as a practice in your own life. One question around it, because I do know so many people are super empathetic, like you mentioned, like your daughter, and can take on the emotions, the states, the ways of being, all that stuff from other people. So is it important to know, like, to distinguish, right? Because if you become the observer, then it's all just like, none of it is you, right? You're just watching it. But is it important to like distinguish what is you and what's not you? And how do you do that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. In this particular case, she's got a friend who's going through a really difficult situation with her parents splitting up, and essentially they're running their energy through the girl, and then the girl is running her energy through my daughter. And when you look at that, when you can get back and pull back a little bit, and you see that this is all they can do with the tools that they have at this moment. It's a very painful situation, and I completely get it and completely understand. But you also lead through example. So if Kayla can be the example of the brighter, shinier light of that, we chose, yellow for that situation, in that color, to really stand for being compassionate, but stand for strength for her friend. And we can all do this for people that are going through things in our lives. I have an aging parent situation. We recently lost my dad, and my mom is in a world of hurt. And this is a compassionate conversation we're having here. But you also can be the example of strength for her. Because if we both went into a puddle in the ground, it's not going to help my mom. She is a vibrant woman, and she has a lot of life in her. So she has to pick herself back up, and she had an accident after his death, and then she broke a rib. I mean, she was going in the wrong direction. Yes, she lost the love of her life of 50 years, my mom, and she's still alive. So she gets to continue. And we all have this responsibility to pick ourselves back up. It could be financial loss, relationship loss, all of this is happening around us all the time. And once we look at the difference between our energy and what's happening and that energy, you can either return it to this person that sent it, or you can drop it down to the core of the earth that really handles a lot of things. And separate yourself from the energy, become the observer. Then you're a strength for the person to help either offer advice or just be. Sometimes just being that strength and being that light, you start to change the people around you.
I love it.
All the time. You've experienced, we've all experienced it and had glimpses of it. I'm just talking about actively using it as a tool, consciously.
Yes, this is a very compassionate conversation. I feel like there's a lot of emotion and depth to this conversation right now. And I just, it's beautiful. I appreciate you creating that space and of compassion. So I know that you mentioned that you had another tool also beyond the tool that you just discussed with us. So what else can people apply?
Okay, so we've talked a lot about clearing energy and resetting your energy. Now we're going to go into the manifestation space. And that is where, what do you want? What do you want? Now that you've got your energy reset and you've cleared your space, what do you want to create now? How do you want to show up? What are you working on? Everybody's got a great dream, got a great goal, using their voice for change, doing incredible things in the world. I think we're all turning into conscious activists, right? In whatever our world is. So this is a technique that is an elevation of consciousness where you go up in certain levels of frequency and reset your goal into your future. And this, I'm actually sharing this with the audience. There's a link that you've got there, and this is a free gift for everyone. And this is a 20-minute visualization process. And I encourage everyone to really dive in and do this, if you can, once a day. But what it does is you go through this, it's a visualization of being in a floating room, elevator, whatever you want to call it. But I have a floor to ceiling glass window room. And in that room, there are these doors that close, and this is your space, 100% clear space for just you. No obstacles, no blockages, no obstructions, just beautiful, clear, empty room with gorgeous, pine wood floors and floor to ceiling windows. And you start to see beautiful trees outside. And then you start to see the tops of the trees as you move up in your levels of consciousness. And then you start to see the clouds and the beautiful blue sky. And as you start to rise in levels of consciousness, you start to feel lighter and lighter and lighter as you move up into these levels of consciousness. And the doors open, and then you get to walk onto this floor where you meet your guide. And we are all so amazingly guided. And we sometimes forget to thank this level of guidance in our life. We ask for what we want all the time, but do we ever really give deep, reverent gratitude to our guidance? It could be our crossed over loved ones or angels or whatever your belief system is. We are always supported. And I believe in thanking and being grateful, and that expands so much. And that level of gratitude, then you go back into your room and you rise up into other, different levels. And as you're rising up, you're passing through these floors of negative thinking and judgment, and you're really making a conscious choice to rise above those levels of those denser levels of thinking. And once you've reached the highest floor, which is above the clouds, that beautiful space of high consciousness, of higher thinking. Once you reach that space, then the doors open and you make a conscious choice to step into your future. And that future is what you remember to be everything that you are creating right now in your life. That incredible sense of peace, if it's success, if it's a connection, if it's vibrant health, if it's flowing finances, whatever it feels like, and it's connecting to the feeling of that. And that is essential, to connect to the feeling. The thoughts, the feelings, the sensations, the smells, the tastes, everything. Engage all of your feelings, the sense of relaxation when you're there, and really engage all of your senses so it lights up your neurology. And then you sit in that space of that incredible feeling. And then you bring it back into your room of consciousness. And then you drop back into levels of here and now and presence. And so it brings back, and it really is literally remembering your future. And every time you reignite that feeling, later that night, and the next morning, and that night, and the next morning, and that night, you re-establish these neural bridges in your brain, and you start to call in that future. It's a beautiful technique, an incredible exercise. And I did a little speed version there, but you got it.
That's awesome. Thank you. And everyone, as Lisa mentioned, there's actually a button below that has a link over to this exercise, this meditation that you can all have for free. So thank you. I appreciate that so much.
Absolutely.
So I know that change, even just saying that word, right, can create resistance in people. I certainly find that in myself, like, oh, it's working this way, I don't want to change it, or I don't want to have to change, right? Like what kind of, I don't know, suggestions do you have for people on how to adapt to change? Because it's always going to be happening.
Absolutely. Isn't that the greatest myth? That we don't think it's going to change? Oh, it's such an illusion. And it's so true. We are so brainwashed by this illusion that everything's going to stay the same, or that we get so upset over change.
Right.
And if you welcome it, and if you say, okay, but look, that happened, and change is inevitable. Change is essential for growth. Sometimes change is harder if you resist it. No, let me say that again. Change is always harder when you resist it. Always harder. The more you resist the change and don't want to accept that things are changing and happening, it is so much more work that way. Accepting things that have shifted. Say, for example, you have, gone through a separation, a divorce, and you have a level of resistance of all that's going on around that. There's rejection, there's betrayal, it's complicated and it hurts. And it is happening. And so at some point, whatever it is, even if it's a health challenge, at some point, if you go into the acceptance of what is, not giving up. I'm not talking about giving up at all. I'm talking about the acceptance and lessening the resistance to it and saying, I accept what is. You go back into the objective observer and you look at this, even if you have to step outside and put it outside of yourself and put it into a glass ball or whatever and look at it as the observer. Look at the situation and say, okay, that changed. There's grieving around it, but you can put that aside and simply look at the situation. And then you start to impact the difference of the situation. How can I look at this differently? How can this be accepted into my life and the new normal? How can, and yes, you can still actively do things towards. So let's talk a little bit about like maybe our climate and the fact that we're experiencing these extreme weather patterns, right?
Yep.
So they're constant. Greg Braden says that extremes are the new normal in our weather patterns. So if you look at that, then you start to prepare for it. And as you did, you prepared for it the last time you had to leave during a hurricane. Now you've got a different set of tools that you use during this. I mean, we're talking extreme situations here.
Right.
And you maintained your calm through it, and you continue to, even do great interviews. During I mean, it goes back to that concept of looking at things as how we're interconnected to everything. And if you look at something that's changing right now, and you connect to it, and you realize that it really is not separate from you, but it's all a part of your creation and your awareness. You change your perspective around it. You embrace the change. You let go of the resistance, and I guarantee you things start to shift. They start to shift. You call it the miracle zone, you call it whatever, but it is all done from the power of your being.
Yeah. So
we have right here.
So for everyone watching right now, Lisa is referencing hurricanes because we just dealt with that this last couple of weeks, and we were having a conversation before about how shocked we were that this current hurricane didn't create the power to go out. So I was doing the interviews for this series at the same time, and the winds are outside and the crazy rains and whatever, and it just made me think when you said that there was a level of that connectedness and kind of like, I mean, obviously we would have evacuated if it had been like everybody, a mandatory thing, but it wasn't for us. And so I felt like we were going to be safe, and there was no real need for concern. Maybe we'll have some damage, but I feel overall safe. And there's kind of a little bit of an excitement in just trusting in the unknown in those moments. You know, it's like, I don't know what's going to happen. What will happen on this interview, and will the power go out, or will the internet withstand, you know, but it was like, yeah, this connection to what was happening.
And you know what that enables you to do? To be fully present. I mean, I bet you were fully engaged during that experience.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, you're engaged, you're present, you're alive to what's happening around you, you're adapted to change, you're waiting for you're willing to accept the change at any moment.
Right.
You're fully alive. All of your senses are engaged.
Mm-hmm.
And wouldn't it be great to have a life like this?
Yeah.
I'm talking 24/7, there's downtime and so forth, but to live in that activated space where we're really using all of our senses.
Mm-hmm.
We're not meant to be asleep.
Right. Yeah.
Numb out. We're not meant to numb out pain.
Mm-hmm.
And pain is present and pain exists, but when you stop resisting it and embrace it, it starts to lessen. Mm-hmm. And you come up with more ideas because you're present to it on how to solve it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful thing to think about. And also, yeah, exactly. If we could all, for everyone watching right now, take change and not knowing what's going to happen next as a thing to help you feel alive, help you feel excited, right? Surrender into not knowing what's
This is what authentic awareness is. Absolutely. Mm. Absolutely. Yes.
I love it.
It's living a life of authentic awareness.
Mm. Awesome. So what about belief? You know, that's another big theme of this event is how do our beliefs affect our ability to create, to manifest, to really live the life that we want to live? So what's your take on beliefs and how that influences our life?
Well, if you want to know your beliefs, look at your life. Your life is an evidence of all of your belief systems. They're right there. And if you look at the evidence around you, I mean, really take a look. What do my relationships look like? How am I showing up there? What do my finances look like? How am I showing up there? And I have a dear friend, and she's such a humanitarian, such a beautiful human being. And she has a really hard time with anybody that makes a lot of money. And it has an unconscious belief system around, oh, well, they're the billionaires or they're the millionaires and they have the money to do this. And she's incredibly struggling financially. Mm-hmm. And it's the lack of awareness on the judgment of the other people's money and what they do with it. Yes, there is greed. Yes, they have, there are people that have more than not. And there is a huge homeless problem. And yes, we're having a very difficult situation with the separation of the classes. And you have a responsibility to thrive so that you can impact and help other people. So letting go and dropping those belief systems around people with money and moving into a place of, yes, compassionate giving and compassionate, living, but she still has to pay her rent. She still has to pay her car payment. She still has to, get insurance for health and so forth. And then, and get a job that really makes a difference in the world. And when she just lets go of those belief systems, everything else, I believe, is just waiting there for her. Mm-hmm. So it impacts us a lot.
Yeah.
It impacts us a lot. It even has to do with weight. There was a time where I gained a lot of weight and I started looking at my life going, what is this? And I was thinking, oh, it's hormones. Oh, it's this, it's that. And then I was looking at how much of a belief system do I have to be a thin, healthy, active individual? And I realized that I was holding in my belief system that I didn't deserve that. Mm-hmm. That I came from 2 obese parents. Mm-hmm. And, that's through my whole family. And, oh, I don't deserve that. I'm genetically not predisposed to being a thin, healthy, active human. And I literally let go of the belief system and literally shed the pounds, not changing anything in my diet. That's my belief system. It is incredibly strong. We talked about frequency. We've talked about, vibration, and our belief systems lock in that frequency and it shows up everywhere in our life. Our belief systems are super strong. So if you want to see what your belief systems are, take a look at your life.
Yes. I love that.
You can change them. Right. Isn't that amazing?
I know. Right. Yeah. I love
the power of the potential of the human being. It's so untapped and it's so limitless and filled with possibilities. And the way that we live our lives is completely up to us. Yes, there's circumstances, but there's not victimization.
It's our responsibility to thrive. I love it. That was a mic drop line for Lisa Garr.
I just started thinking about people who, so I got this email yesterday from someone who, I saw her video and it brought me to tears. It was just 2 minutes. And her father went to sell her for sex trafficking. Oh. The most unimaginable. And, he was an alcoholic and I don't know how that happened, but she turned her life around, this amazing, amazing woman. And she has this technique now. I don't remember the technique, but it's like this something step process. And she has guided many, many women who've been through this, this where she just got sucked into this train, totally unknowingly, very young. And she now teaches women who've been in that system to be able to have their self-worth again and to be able to get out. And so as I said, when I said there is no victimization, she came into my mind. And I want to make sure that I don't give off the opinion that I have this fairy tale life. I am interviewing people in incredible situations every day and have been through them myself and have complete compassion around it. But I'm here to tell you about the potential of the human being. And I stand strong for that.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. Amazing stories. And there's so many millions more exactly like that with different scenarios and how people can come up out of such a thing and be thriving, like you said, right? Taking the responsibility to thrive and then, help other people through their stuff. So I love it. Yeah. So Lisa, I would love it if you would share about your other freebie. So there's 2 buttons below. One of them leads over to that meditation that we talked about. But there's something else for free you have. So what is that?
Oh, thank you for reminding me. Yes. So I've created this new show because I don't have enough of them, but I do mostly terrestrial radio. So it's on Los Angeles, New York, Hay House Radio, which is online, and Gaia TV, which I wanted to create something that was just freely available for people online. And on Mondays, because Mondays tends to be the day of the week where it's the least productivity, the highest rate of heart attack and suicide. There's a lot of things around Mondays that people don't even, statistics saying you don't even crack a smile till 11:16 a.m. on Mondays. So I am committed to changing that. And I've created a show called Motivation Mondays. And it is online. It is free to anyone. It is on Zoom. And I have brilliant people talking about uplifting conversations, techniques, courses that they're involved in that you can get involved in as well. And so if you look on there, it's called theawareshow.com/Motivation Mondays. And you can join me Mondays, 5:30 p.m. Pacific for an hour and just get uplifted. And I didn't do it during the morning because I didn't want people to be less productive at work. I wanted to,
that's right.
But then you can really have a great Tuesday.
That's right. Yes.
So just check that link out there and you can join us on our Motivation Mondays. I have really, really great speakers on.
That's a great idea. I love that. Yep, absolutely. And I haven't really thought about, I don't keep to a very standard schedule. Our schedule is kind of all over the place as far as that, but I would imagine, that especially if you're at a 9 to 5 or something like that could definitely.
Or even for entrepreneurs, you're a self-motivator. I mean, that's all entrepreneurship is you are the boss every Monday morning.
Yeah.
You set your own agenda and follow it.
Right. Yes.
So it's great for people who want to be hyper motivated too on Monday. It's just a chance to reset.
Yes.
And also because we spent all weekends, we tend to spend weekends with our tribe. And then on Mondays, we tend to feel disconnected and disoriented as well.
Right.
So, if we go back into a work mode. So it's a great way to reset your energy on Mondays. So check that out.
Yes. Thank you so much. So yes, everyone, again, there's those 2 buttons below. So click over to get your meditation and to go register for Motivation Mondays. And is there anything else you want to share? Any last insights or anything, stories, tidbits before we wrap up?
No, I think I've done it. I've been extremely passionate and poured a lot into you all. So I'm just going to leave you with being. Just experience that wonderful sense of being. It's how we create everything. Not in the doing, it's in the being who you are. And just relax into that and experience that sense of peace and love and joy and community and interconnectedness.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for doing this and for taking the time to be here today. And everyone, thank you so much for showing up for yourself, for being here. And it speaks volumes of you that you've showed up and you're tuning into this event and tuning into Lisa's class. And we will see you on the next one. Thanks, everybody.
Bye. Thank
Yay.
you. Thanks, Andy.
Yay. Thank you. That was perfect. Hey everyone, I just wrapped up another great class with Lisa Garr, and she talked with us about authentic awareness. So first of all, I think my biggest take-home message throughout this entire interaction with Lisa is just that sense of interconnectedness, of not being separate from one another, that beautiful connection that we shared in the beginning of the class that I hope you shared with us, along with us. That's what this is all about. It's all about remembering that connection, remembering that lack of separation, and truly stepping into that state of bliss that she talked about based on her experience and her brain injury and all of that trauma that she went through brought her to that interconnectedness, that space of bliss. So I just absolutely love that. And I hope that you felt that connection as well. A couple other take-home messages were, I asked her around, right, like why is it that today it's so important for us to each have spiritual tools, personal development tools, a daily practice, what have you? And she talked about it as our thought diet, right? So if you're someone who's into also eating healthy, my background is in nutrition, so that's a big part of my life, right? You also need to consider not only what you put in your mouth, but also what you're thinking, how you're being thought, all of that kind of stuff. And she mentioned that it is no longer a luxury, it's a responsibility. And all the changes that have occurred as she's interviewed people over the last however many years she's been doing what she's been doing in new age, new thought topics, all of that kind of stuff, that things have been changing because of that, right? That thought diet, the more and more people that are taking on to paying attention to our thoughts, doing things like meditation and yoga and, practices and awareness and mindfulness, all of those things take effect in our own life and change our own life. And then, like she mentioned, change our frequency. And then we are ultimately attracting different things to us in our lives and changing the world around us. So I just thought that was really important. And then the last thing I wanted to mention is when we talked about adapting to change. So just take a moment. Like when I say the word change, do you respond in a certain way, like resistance or putting your hands up? That can be a reaction of mine, which is why I say it, right? How do you adapt to change? And she mentioned that change is essential to growth, and it is always harder with resistance. Again, change is essential to our growth, and it's always harder when we resist it. So just take a look at that in your life. Like, where are you accepting of change and embracing change? And then where are maybe the areas where you're resisting change and not wanting things to change? So just taking a look at that in your life. Thank you again so much for showing up for yourself today, and we will see you on the next one. Take care, everybody.